Blue moon, you saw me standing alone.
1969, an incredibly good year. The Academy Award-winning #1 movie was Midnight Cowboy.
Everybody's talking at home.
Best actor was the infamous John Wayne. Best supporting actress was one of my favorites, Goldie Hawn, who looks the same today as she did then. What's up with that? Rock and roll has never been as good as it was then, with the #1 song being Led Zeppelin's Whole Lotta Love, and Creedence Clearwater Revival not far behind with the #5 song Bad Moon Rising. A year of miracles from the eyes of a 7th grader who was in love with the idea of being in love, which she had yet to experience. My, how time flies. I 125 million Americans, as well as the entire world, were eager and waiting in anticipation for the spectacular event planned. Being 13, I, of course, was excited too, but for a countless number of other reasons. My mom and dad had planned a watching party and had invited their students. My dad was a professor at Texas Wesleyan College, so his students would be college students. I was used to that because we spent a great deal of time with these students as my dad was extremely popular and students often visited our home. But my mom's students, she had invited the cheerleaders from her school, Miracle #1. She was probably the cheerleader sponsor or something. I can't quite remember that part, but cheerleaders. I was ecstatic, a 13-year-old romanticist wishing to be beautiful and stately as I saw cheerleaders, was going to spend the entire day with cheerleaders. How could I be so lucky? I helped Mom vacuum and pick up stuff around the house, assisted with getting the food and drinks and ice ready and into the coolers. The plan was to have a picnic of sorts outside, play games, sit and visit, listen to music, and then come inside to watch TV. Dad and I went outside to set up some chairs and tables and get the games out. I was shivering with anticipation, awaiting the arrival of the cheerleaders. People started arriving slowly. They sat in chairs on the lawn and some went inside the house to see if Mom needed any help or just to say hello. The afternoon seemed to pass by quickly as I sat and chatted with the cheerleaders, just as though I'd known them my entire life. Miracle #2. I was in heaven. They all seemed extremely interested in me and what I had to say. All I could think about was what I planned to tell my friends when I returned to school. They would all be so jealous. Dad and a few of his students cooked some hamburgers on the grill. Everybody was having fun, but I was humiliated when my dad started acting like he was talking to the burgers. I couldn't believe he did that. Mom was mixing up some potato salad inside. Finally, it was time to eat. It was tricky balancing my plate on my lap while eating, but I managed it without incident, thank goodness. Suddenly, the sun was a slight wedge above the horizon, creating beautiful colors on the clouds, and the mosquitoes overtook us. We moved into the house to lounge around waiting for the event that caused this glorious party to occur in the first place. All eyes were on the television, except mine. I was looking around me, still in awe that I was in the presence of and surrounded by cheerleaders. The news reporter came on and broadcasted the expectations of this great event. We saw the moon, then an aircraft moving close to it, and I heard a voice directing the craft to land there. As the craft stopped, some voice said, "Houston, the Eagle has landed." Everyone in the room cheered. I didn't really understand why, but I didn't want to seem weird, so I cheered.
30 feet down, 2.5. Picking up some dust. 30 feet, 2.5 down. Straight shadow.
Stand by for 30.
At 4 forward, drift into the right a little.
30. 30 seconds.
30 seconds. Forward, just contact light. Okay, engine stop. Tranquility Base here. The Eagle has landed.
Roger, Tranquility.
After a few minutes, the door opened and out came a guy in a spacesuit, Neil Armstrong, I discovered later. He moved slowly down the ladder, and I thought that suit he had on was probably heavy. As he stepped off the last step of the ladder, he said something about a step for mankind, and everyone cheered again.
It's one small step for man, one giant leap for mankind.
Even though I did not particularly like history, I knew that the first moon landing was a spectacular and monumental event, but nothing could compare to my evening spent with cheerleaders. This memory about what I found important at the age of 13 during a world-changing event assists me now as an educator to create lessons that are relevant to my students. Just as I did during the first landing on the moon, students today have more eclectic thoughts, feelings, and values than we as adults think they should. Creating lessons that connect to their lives will help them find validity in the information they need to retain and utilize for years to come. As I look back on the event, I now realize that I witnessed my miracle number 3 of that year, an occurrence that young people today can only view via internet video. Today I understand how President Kennedy set up this mission with his speech in 1962.
We choose to go to the moon. We choose to go to the moon. We choose to go to the moon in this decade and do the other things, not because they are easy, but because they are hard. Because that challenge is one that we're willing to accept, one we are unwilling to postpone, and one we intend to win.
I remember seeing the liftoff of Apollo 11 on July 18th and listening to reports about its progress in the 2 days travel to the moon. I recall the post-walk reports that reviewed what transpired on July 20th, 1969.
Last night, something like 125 million Americans and uncounted millions in other countries saw a unique combining of romance and technology. John Keats looked at the moon one time and wondered what there was in it that moved his heart. The scientists and engineers looked at the moon and thought they could send men to walk on it if they could build the hardware. It turned out they could, and they did. And perhaps 50 years from now or more, when people think of the past, they will look at the pictures from last night.
Today, at 53, I am no longer concerned about being in the company of cheerleaders, but I see the first walk on the moon as a gateway that opened unlimited promise and hope for space travel and expedition, not only for the United States, but for the entire world.